Welcome back to In Ohio Country Today. Our guest this week, Director of Agriculture here in the state of Ohio, Jim Zehringer. And Jim, we discussed a few things like the Ohio Livestock Board and obviously your trips around the state of Ohio. While you're visiting the state fairs and the various types of activities that you normally do throughout the state of Ohio, I'm sure you get a first-hand look at our crops around the state. Let's get an update from you how things look.
Well, the crops look generally better than anybody could imagine they would have looked, considering the late start that we had this year. This was the wettest spring, I believe, in 126 years. And so a lot of the corn wasn't planted till the 1st of June. So we're running 3 weeks behind yet on a lot of the crops. But my drive over today to Lima was, I was impressed, especially with the soybeans.
Yeah.
The soybeans are looking very good. I've heard some reports that the average of corn was up around the 150, 160 area. And I don't know I haven't heard too much on beans, but they look good. But anyway, I think we can be happy with the genetics and the types of corn and the good farmers that we have here in West Central, in the whole state of Ohio, actually, that we may come out all right on that.
A lot of positive things, too, as far as the wheat crop was concerned. It looked like things turned to a positive note for many wheat farmers throughout the state of Ohio. But while we're on the topic as far as crops here in the state, let's talk about the diversity of those crops. I mean, people may not know it, but I believe we're still growing tobacco down in the South, all the way up to a variety of different crops out there in the state. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, there is diversity, and I believe the number is about 160 different types of crops in the state of Ohio. And then that does include different species. I mean, we have aquaculture that a lot of people have diversified to, and then there's a lot of specialty crops, and we need them all here in the state of Ohio. Ohio is a day's drive of 60% of the population in the United States. So Ohio is positioned very well to be a leader, and it is a leader in food processing. Dannon Yogurt, I believe, is the largest yogurt producer in the country. We have the largest pizza producer in the world. We have the largest ketchup producer in the world in Ohio. So we have a lot of processing here. This morning I toured a plant that made mashed potatoes for Bob Evans. and so there's a lot of processing that goes on in Ohio, and it's because of the diversity that we have here.
Well, one of those diverse crops we have to touch on is just a growing commodity here in the state of Ohio, and that's the Ohio grape growers and the wine industry. I mean, whether it's Vintage Ohio or the annual Food and Wine Festival on the North Market in Columbus, there are a variety of different celebrations that bring to light the diversity of that particular crop and how well it's done to promote economic development here in the state of Ohio.
And we're just tapping that wonderful resource we have here in the state of Ohio. I believe we have about 130 or 140 wineries in the state of Ohio. And this year at the Ohio State Fair, Dan, was the first time that we actually got to showcase them and actually had a little pavilion off to the side that you could sample Ohio wines. And they were, I believe they ran out of their supply of wines like in the first 4 days that they had brought up. So everybody was really interested in Ohio wines. I know
everybody was really interested or really happy. Let's put it that way.
Maybe both. But anyway, there are some exciting things going on in the grape industry and the wine industry, not only in producing a quality product of wine, but tourism. And these wineries have set up just nice places where you can sample wine and maybe grill a steak outside or enjoy music. So this is a very exciting diversity here in Ohio.
One of the things that I wanted to touch on while we have a chance is to talk a little bit about renewable energy and how agriculture is playing a part in that here in the state of Ohio.
Well, there's many ways it plays a part. Obviously, ethanol, biofuels is one way. Wind turbines, if you get up in the Paulding, Van Wert County areas, there are windmills popping up everywhere. That's a very good way to supplement your income on the farm and not affect too much farmland. And then out in eastern Ohio, Dan, there's going to be an oil boom. This Marcellus and Utica shale that is being developed out there could really re-energize the whole eastern part of the state of Ohio. The whole Rust Belt, as it's called, Youngstown and Steubenville and some of those towns, there is so much natural gas and oil out there that this is going to be a good thing for Ohio. So that's going to be good for Ohio farmers. And I suggested them to make sure you don't do anything without really investigating and get a good lawyer that you know, not someone that comes in and claims to be an expert, because there's some probably leases, no matter if it's either a windmill or a oil well. You have to know what's going on.
And let's talk about the environmental impact and the impact it has on the grounds that we're talking about. When we're talking about the shale development, we're talking about the wind turbines that are being put up. This is actually being produced with little or minimal amount of impact or changes to the existing environment.
Yeah, that's right. You don't need to pop wells up, for example, every quarter mile or whatever. Yeah. You could actually put an acre, I think they're like 5 or 6 acres, and the wells go down about 7,000 feet, then they go horizontal. And that's what the big difference is in today's technology. So there's things called pooling, and you get together with neighbors. So instead of having one well, or several wells, you just have one. Same way with the wind turbines. There's a lot of studies that go into where they're being put. You just don't put one up. That has to be an organized effort, or a farm to have several up to make it worthwhile. But the Power Siting Board, which I sat on, they do a lot of investigating before these go up, and there's a lot of homework that's done to make sure they're environmentally safe.
Jim, while we're talking about renewable fuels, we can't overlook the biodigesters and the different types of energy that we can get that's from the farm. Let's talk about some of those types of different techniques that are being developed right now here in the state.
The biodigesters, methane digesters, it's all new technology, but it's very exciting. Yeah. Because this could eliminate a lot of the phosphorus that's going on a lot of the fields. It's creating some of the issues that we have with our watersheds, and it's also going to be extra income. These are going to be able to produce energy. Then it's going to be able to produce a product that could be applied in areas that can't use phosphorus. And you never want to say waste when it comes to your nutrient byproducts on a farm, because it's very valuable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Well, when we're talking about the watersheds, we might as well get right into talking about one of the problems that everybody's discussing, blue-green algae that's appeared on lakes like Grand Lake, St. Mary's, and of course Lake Erie. Where are we at now with that, and some of the new techniques and developments that are going that the state's helping with to kind of lower that problem?
Well, in the Grand Lake area, the Grand Lake watershed are doing some things that are probably a little more stricter than other watersheds in the state of Ohio. They're restricted from hauling manure during the winter months, when a lot of the nutrients don't get incorporated in the soil, and they end up in a watershed stream or ditch, side ditch, and you just can't have that. So there's some, and then they're also required to get a CNMP, which is a comprehensive nutrient management plan, which means you can only put so much on your land that you need. And so and really that's the way all farmers need to operate. Most of them do. If you don't need phosphorus or large amounts of nitrogen, you don't put it on, because we're running into this issue in both watersheds with a thing called dissolved phosphorus. And that means the phosphorus that's already in the soil, that's banked in the soil itself, is moving. And we need to get a better handle on that. For example, up in the Lake Erie watershed, there's hardly any animals up there. Right. But they use regular commercial fertilizers, and that's starting to move either through field tiles or rain runoff. So we had an extensive meeting recently at the Ohio Department of Agriculture, and we're really getting a lot of stakeholders involved that we hope we don't get handed down a lot of regulations from the Environmental Protection Agency or Soil and Water Division. So it's just like the Grand Lake farmers right now. They've come up with a group called Ag Solutions, where the farmers are actually getting together and trying to be very proactive. Oh, yeah. Instead of getting the hammer handed down to them.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. We just did a story at the Brownhaven farm, which I'm sure you know a little bit about, how they're capturing their runoff before it even makes it into the stream, and they're streams and creeks, and they're testing that water supply on a regular basis, and pretty impressed with what they're doing. And that's just a microcosm of the efforts that farmers are making to help improve that situation.
And you're right, Dan, in testing and keeping records.
Yeah.
And that's so important to any farming operation, no matter how big you are or small you are, because those who have records usually win. And so you want to keep track of when it rains. You want to keep track of the nutrients that are leaving your farm. Hopefully none of them are. You want to keep them on the soil.
You know, Jim, our time just seems to fly, but there are a plethora of issues that always come across your desk. And if people want more information, I'm sure they can go right to your website, which is a great website, by the way.
We sure do. If you're interested in our programs like Ohio Proud or any of the programs that we have at the Department of Agriculture, go to agra.ohio.gov.
One more time, Jim.
Go to agra.ohio.gov.
And I want to thank Janelle Mead and Cindy Shy in your office for helping set up this particular interview today. Our guest, the Director of Agriculture here in the state of Ohio, Jim Zehringer. Jim, thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
And we'll be back with more in Ohio Country today right after this.
For more information about today's show or to suggest a topic, fax, call, or email us today. We'll be back with more in Ohio Country today.